All right, so I think I'll call this one Apollo Ghost / updates, or maybe garage updates or shop updates or something. Anyway, so the Ghost, it now has, let's see what the mileage is. 1,106. So I've had it for a year and a half, sat for 6 months because a bearing went out up here on the front tube, this lower bearing. My foot's pointing at. That bearing failed, so it sat for 6 months, got a part. So this thing has about 11 months worth of use. So I've put 1,106 miles on it in 11 months roughly. I've gone over a lot of this before, so forgive me if this is repetitive for you, but you know, this is YouTube and people could find this video before they find another video where I already covered it. So in that 1,106 miles, what I've done with this is replaced the front brake caliper. It's from a company called Avid. It's made in Taiwan. It's a mountain bike caliper. That has been trouble-free. Like I put that on there, and since I put it on there, I haven't really done anything with it. The only thing I've done is pulled the caliper off to replace the tires, which I'll get to in a minute. So that, it still has the sintered metal brake shoes, brake pads that it came with, and there's still plenty of meat on them, and I use the front brake all the time downhill, and I still haven't been able to wear it out, and everything's fine. It works great. No complaints there. I did end up doing a little clearancing to make sure the rotor could clear the caliper without actually contacting the caliper. You know, when you get into modifications and stuff, that's on you, man. Like if you're going to put aftermarket parts on something, you can't just bolt them on and expect them to work. That's not the way it is. So you're going to have to be willing to learn. You're going to have to be willing to test. You're going to have to be willing to modify. You know, I'm not going to walk somebody through that in a comment section on every little detail. I'm just not that guy. There are people out there who do that. God bless them. I'm not that guy. Maybe someday I'll do more videos on that kind of stuff. But, you know, if you're going to do that, you're just going to have to figure it out. The rear brake is factory and it sucks. I mean, it works fine. The stopping power on this thing from day one was fantastic, but they're just fidgety. They're cheap calipers. They don't work well over time. You know, I mean, I guess I should say they work well, but they get out of adjustment. They're sloppy. The brake pads don't wear evenly. Like there's just a lot of problems that with this aftermarket caliper don't exist, and with the factory one does exist. So on the rear, I take the rear brake a lot less seriously because it's just not near as important. The overwhelming majority of your braking power is in the front, and it's nice to have a brake in the rear because sometimes you don't want to use your front brake because you'll lose traction and crash. So it's good to have a rear brake. But I also use the electronic braking on this a lot, and that really saves a lot of wear and tear. So that's a good idea. The electronic braking on this scooter is not going to change your life because it's not like high quality. It doesn't have a lot of flexibility to it, but you know, you get used to it. At least I did, and I don't have any problems, so that's good. I put on this rearview mirror. The only reason I got this rearview mirror is because that's what was at my local bike shop, and it was not expensive. So I thought, what the heck, I'll try it out. And it works fine. You know, if I was actually gonna go out and intentionally seek a rearview mirror, I wouldn't choose this. I would choose something that was either round or square and much bigger. Sure, it would look really nerdy, but the point of the mirror is to see what's behind you, not to look cool. So while this one looks a lot cooler, the visibility is just not as effective. It works well enough that I'm not gonna replace it. I'm just gonna keep it there. It works good enough. I'm plenty happy with it. I am not gonna add one to the other side. One is all I need. And you know, maybe someday if I happen to run across something that looks a little more usable, I'll swap it out, but I'm not really planning on seeking that out. Aftermarket headlight, all different kinds of those. This one happens to be an old Phoenix BC30, works great. There's plenty out there that are good. I suggest Olight or Phoenix, and then there's some brands for bicycles that are fine, but don't need to get into that. And then lastly is the tires. The factory tires, they were fine. You know, they're nothing special, but I didn't have any problems with them. until I started getting flats in the rear all the time. I was just getting like flat tires left and right and left and right. And I did everything I could to figure out why. So I took everything apart and steel wooled the inside of the rim and made sure there weren't any burrs and made sure there was nothing that the tube was getting caught on. And when I'd put a new tube in there, I'd make sure it wasn't getting pinched between the split rims and make sure that it wasn't twisted. And I mean, I did everything I could and I was still just losing them. And I finally went through like 3 or 4 tubes in like a month. And I was just like, screw this, it's gotta be the tire. And I couldn't find anything super obvious in the tire, but I swapped out the tires, got these really nice PMT tires that I did a separate video on, and I have had 0 flats. In fact, this thing, I only fill these up to about 35 PSI, which is plenty. And I just checked them yesterday, and the last time I filled them was like, I don't know, 4 weeks ago or something. And so it held all of its pressure over 4 weeks, which is crazy awesome. So no complaints there. These tires are definitely an upgrade over the factory tire in every conceivable way. You know, if you have good factory tires and you're not having problems, I would not recommend changing your tires just to change your tires. But if you have factory tires and you have problems, or if your factory tires are worn out, I would highly suggest putting PMT tires on there. It's, you know, they're a little on the expensive side, especially compared to the chintzy nylon tires that come with them. But these are true steel belted radials. They're real like motorcycle grade tires. They're just better in every way they could be better. They're better, like in spades. Like it's not even comparable. It's like watching a toddler fight Chuck Liddell. It's just not going to go well for the toddler at all, right? So gross comparison, but accurate. That's pretty much it for the Ghost. The only real problem I'm currently having is I picked up a wobble, and I've had the axles out a couple of times trying to like make sure they're fully seated or figure out what's going on, but the wheels are wobbling a little, and it's not a big deal because I don't usually go that fast, like 20, 25. I can feel it. It's very mild, and it's not enough to like affect, even in the rain, it doesn't really affect anything. It's just mildly annoying. If I find out where that's coming from, I'll do an update video. But for now, there's really nothing else to report about the Ghost. Oh, and people are probably going to ask about the grips. These are ergon grips. Just, you know, I'm not going to do your shopping for you, man. Amazon, your local bike store, whatever. The brand is Ergon, E-R-G-O-N. They make all different kinds. This happens to be the cork. It has kind of a weird look to it because they're made out of cork, like cork infused rubber or something. I didn't seek these out specifically. My local bike shop had them and I thought they were cool. I also have ergon grips on my bicycle. I'll show them to you. They're just black rubber. They're not the cork ones. You know, so they're exactly the same. They're just black rubber. My local bike store had these ones as well, and I decided to go with the cork because they're only a couple bucks more, and I just thought they were kind of neat looking. I don't know if there's any other benefits. They seem to be a little stickier than the black ones, a little tackier. But, oh, and the last thing I wanted to talk about was because I've started riding faster. So I'd say for the first 800 miles on this, it was pretty rare that I topped like between 15 and 20. I've gone up about 10 miles per hour in my average speed. So now I'm riding between 20 and 25. I'll hit 30 occasionally if I'm in the road, but it's actually against the law where I live to ride on a public street over 25 on a scooter. Now it's not enforced. Nobody cares. If you're not doing anything stupid or pissing anyone off or weaving in and out of traffic, nobody's gonna hassle you because you're not doing anything inherently dangerous. But it is illegal. So I try to just be cautious and respectful to everybody, and I just really try hard to keep that 25 and below. There are occasions where I'm still cruising really, really slow, depending on if I'm on a mixed use trail or a bike path. You know, I just don't drive as fast on bike paths as I would the street because it's not appropriate. Nobody expects to be on a bike path riding their bicycle at 17 miles an hour and have some idiot on a scooter blowing by them at 30. It's just, that's not cool, man. I don't care if there's nobody around. If you're gonna pass somebody on a bike trail, nobody's expecting that. And you're being an idiot and inconsiderate numbnut if you do that. So if you're listening to this and you ride like that, well, you're going to bite it one day. And if you bite it hard enough and you hurt somebody or hurt yourself, that's on you, and you're going to get sued and you're going to lose. So don't be stupid. You know, be a human being. Consider other people. There's a reason that pedestrians and bicyclists hate us. You know, there's a reason for it. And I see it all the time. And I'm going on a little bit of an angry tirade here, but we do the scooter share here. And there are people who own private EVs. And most of the people who actually own their own private EV, their own scooter, their own unicycle, their own electric bike, most of those people are pretty respectful, overwhelmingly. I rarely see people like that riding like idiots, but the scooter share people and the bike share people, they don't wear helmets, that's on them. They're only putting themselves in danger, so that's fine. But they're riding like idiots, weaving in and out of pedestrians. You know, some old 90-year-old guy and his wife are walking on the beach, and like some idiot teenagers weaving at 15 miles an hour between them and, you know, like some family with a toddler. And it's the stupidest stuff I've ever seen in my life. And like, if we lived in an anarchist society, I would probably find a stick to shove in their wheel and watch them fly off, and maybe they learn a lesson, because they're going to hurt someone else. And you don't have power over what other people do. Other people are unpredictable, and it's not fair anywhere that I've ever been to expect, when you're walking down the sidewalk, someone on a scooter or a unicycle or a bicycle or whatever to just go flying a foot away from you at speeds of 15 plus miles per hour. Nobody expects that. Nobody. So just don't do it. Don't be that guy. You know, you're the one with the responsibility to look out for others. Just like when you're driving a car. You know, if you're driving a car and a pedestrian does something stupid, you get a dent on your car and they die. So even if they're wrong, it doesn't matter. Now, should you swerve into oncoming traffic because somebody does something stupid? Well, that's up to you. No, I don't think you should. And yes, it is the pedestrian's fault. But at the end of the day, who's going to be the one that's dead? Not you in the car, right? In most circumstances. There are exceptions to everything. And so we as EV riders need to take some responsibility and stop hopping up our electric bikes and riding them like motorcycles on bike paths. It's not appropriate. Like, even if you're handicapped and you have to ride an electric bike, use the bike path. That's fine. You know, just be respectful. Go a speed that is appropriate for where you are. You know, don't fly around at 30 miles an hour on a bike path just because you can. Now, if there's nobody around and visibility is good and you're by yourself, do whatever you want, man. Do whatever you want. That's fine. But you need to be reasonable. And it is not reasonable to weave in and out of pedestrians going really fast or cut too close to people. It's just not reasonable to do that. And, you know, and all you're going to do is make people hate us even more. So if you're one of those people, just please, for your own sake and everyone else's, knock it off, please. Anyway, back to the safety, and this is kind of why I went on this tirade, is I upgraded my helmet because I go faster now. So I bought a mountain biking helmet, and I used to motorcycle. I don't have my motorcycle gear, my motorcycle helmets anymore. I sold them with my bikes. But so I got this, and this is basically just like, to me, it seems more or less like a dirt biking helmet that just they didn't pay to get a Snell rating on. I could be wrong about that, but it is a Mips helmet. And if you get a helmet and it's not a motorcycle helmet, but a bike helmet, get a Mips. That's what you want. And this is a Bell. I don't remember the model number. It was on sale. You know, basically if it's a Mips helmet and it's from a name brand like Bell or Specialized or Trek or something like that, it's gonna be a good helmet. You know, it's gonna meet whatever standard it needs to meet in order to be safe. This particular helmet has really good venting, so it's an excellent summer helmet. Has vents in here, really cool. But I'll tell you this, because this doesn't have a visor, I've had bees fly into my helmet. Well, one was a bee and one was a wasp. And the wasp stung me like 6-7 times on the side of the face. So that was awesome. And trying to rip these helmets off fast when you got a wasp stinging the shit out of the side of your face is, well, it's one of those experiences that you just have to live through to understand. It's special. These are my old motorcycle gloves. I wear these. Sometimes if I'm planning on going slower, I'll just wear mechanics gloves, just like for a little protection, but mechanics gloves aren't going to do squat for you if you wreck. So these are legit Icon motorcycle gloves that have seen many miles and years on motorcycles with me. Goat skin, real tough stuff. You know, any leather isn't going to cut it. Like work gloves, you know, if you're going 10-15, maybe work gloves will be okay, but the leather that's used in work gloves is not really made for abrasion the way that a motorcycle glove is. It's, you know, there's not all leathers are created equal. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into prepping leather for different uses, and some is more durable than others. Knuckle protection is good too. And then for a jacket, I wear a number of things. Again, if I'm not going that fast, like I don't really worry about it, but when I'm gonna go pretty fast, I have this Filson Alcan Canvas Cruiser, which is waxed cotton. It's got ballistic nylon on it. It does not have armor in it, but it's a motorcycle leather, it's a motorcycle jacket, waxed cotton jacket. It's pretty durable. You know, if you want to be the guy who wears armor on your scooter or your unicycle, you know, good on you. You know, do it. If you fall over, you're going to be real happy you have that armor. That's all I'm going to tell you, you know. I probably should wear armor too, but generally speaking, I'm pretty safe and slow, so I'm not too scared of wrecking. Yeah, and then so from here, outside of the EV rant and the updates on the Ghost, I wanted to talk about some of my other projects. So my mom and I picked up a 1930 Model A. It's been fully restored. I don't remember how many years ago it was fully restored. It's been a long time, and it has not been started or run in like 14-15 years. We picked it up in Oregon, and we were in the process of removing the fuel tank because the fuel tank had fuel sitting in it for 15 years. And so the inside of the tank needs a good cleaning. And so we're working on that, and then we'll get it fired up, and I'll inspect the brakes. And I'm teaching my mom, she's 62. She's 62. I'm teaching my mom about working on cars, and it's been fun. This Model A is sadly, I know more about Model A's now than I did when we bought this a month ago. It's not fully original. It was restored very well, but it has a Model B engine in it. So this exhaust manifold is a Model A exhaust manifold, but the carburetor, the intake manifold, the engine itself, and the distributor are out of a later model, 32 or later Model B. And the differences are the Model A has manually controlled ignition timing and manually controlled fuel mixture adjustment for the carburetor, whereas the Model B does not. So this is gonna operate, run, and drive a lot more like a modern vehicle. And the Model B also has, some, not all, has a counterbalanced crankshaft, so they run smoother and last longer. Some have bearings in them, if they're later Model Bs, or maybe Model Cs. I don't remember if they use the same engine in Model B and Model C, but yeah, it's got pressurized oiling system. The Model A did not. Overall, the parts are mostly interchangeable between Model A's and B's, but the Model B is just a lot more modern in many ways. And that breaks my heart because I really wanted that Model A driving experience. I think it's really cool, but you know, we're still gonna have a great time. It's been converted to 12 volts. It's got a GM alternator on it. It's not a 6 volt, it's a 12 volt. And it's got hydraulic brakes, and these originally came with mechanical linkage brakes. So when it was restored, he put hydraulic brakes on there. And that's not an upgrade I mind. You know, I mean, the linkage brakes are great, and if you take care of them well, they work just fine. But hydraulic brakes are a nice modern touch. So that's fine. You know, we'll be fine with that. Yeah, and it's in really good shape. I mean, the windshield is starting to delaminate a little, but here's the interior. It's got a rumble seat in the back. Won't get too into that. And then the last project that I'm working on is I'm pulling the E40D 4-speed transmission out of my pickup. It started whining, so I've got to replace the either the pump or the torque converter. I'm not sure what's making the noise, but I'm replacing both the pump and the torque converter because I just don't want to have to pull it back out again. And I pulled the pan off and it was nice and clean in there. There weren't any metal fragments. So whatever is coming apart in that transmission is not yet a problem. So that's why I'm gonna preventively replace both of those things, because I don't want to trash that transmission. So I wanna get as many miles out of that thing as I possibly can. But yeah, so that's where I'm at generally. And you know, maybe I'll do some more videos on the Model A. It'll be fun once it gets running and driving to film some stuff, and you know, we'll probably take it out, take it to shows or club meetings or any number of other things. But yeah, so big takeaways. I've got plenty on my plate to do out here in the shop. The Ghost is going well, just fine. The new tire upgrade was probably the single best thing I've done to it. And don't be a douchebag if you ride EVs. All right, man. PEVs, I should say, personal electric vehicles, or any electric vehicle. Just don't be a douchebag in general. Just don't do it. You know, it's a choice. Don't do it. Okay, signing off.